So this is the last talk today, and I know you're probably bored. Some people are leaving. Stay with me. It's just a 10-minute. That was 2-hour workshop, and they asked me, "Can you do it in 10 minutes?" Yeah, yeah. Who said that Europeans cannot be efficient? So yeah, my name is Marcin Krzyzanowski, and I write Swift mostly, and mostly on Mac. And sometimes I regret that I also need to use Linux. And this talk is how to write Swift on your Mac, build it for Linux, and run it there without Docker, without SSH, without tiers. 10 minutes. So let's go. What we cover, there will be problem, toolchain, SwiftPM, cross-compiling, Apple Virtualization framework, Apple new Containerization framework, and quick demo live, but pre-recorded but live. So the problem is you're a Mac developer. You can be iOS developer, but you're a developer. You write Swift, and one day someone says, we're deploying on Linux. Now you have 3 choices: suffer, or Docker on desktop. So the story is, write Swift on Mac, and you want to run it on Linux. And macOS is like, nope, that's not my problem. What are the options? The options is the SSH. So I can SSH into the machine. That's kind of laggy, can be problematic. Dual boot feels like 2009. There's a Docker desktop. Whoever used the Docker desktop, it can eat your battery, it can you CPU, it can you money sometimes. But can you do better? Yes, you can. So the better is, what if we could do it natively with Apple frameworks? Start with a Swift toolchain. So Swift is portable by design. Same compilers, same SwiftPM, same tools. What is different, what changes, is SDK. On macOS, you get AppKit. On iOS, you get UIKit. On Linux, you get glibc and Foundation. So the differences. So this is the same Swift in different costumes. The compiler is the same. The SDK changes. That's why Swift can work across platform without hack. We use the Swift for building iOS applications and Mac applications, so we know that it can be done. It just doesn't feel like we deal with it every day, but we do. And SwiftPM is a real hero. I didn't know I say that. One manifest, many platforms. It handles dependencies, compilation, testing, all tailored to per platform. It's like Xcode projects, except it actually works everywhere when it works. So we write a manifest. The proposition is write once, and SwiftPM build it for whatever SDK you target. You don't need to change your code. SwiftPM does the heavy lifting of building. Now, to the fun part, building Linux binaries on macOS. That is called cross-compilation. The old way of compiling for Linux would be SSH into the Linux box. So you connect, you log in, you pull the source code, build, and run the application. It kind of feels like a punishment in 2025. So there's a better way, more modern way that we can do in 2025, was not available a few years back. With Swift Static Linux SDK, you can build Linux ELF. I don't know what is the English pronunciation. ELF is just a nice word. ELF binaries directly on the Mac. And that's it. Of course, it's not going to run on Mac. What's going to happen is the source will link statically and will result with a single self-contained binary that can be run on any Linux distribution. So the benefits is it's just works. It no longer works on my machine. It works on any machine. One binary that can run everywhere, on Linux, of course. But you can't run ELF binary on macOS. It needs a Linux kernel. So the solution to that is lightweight Linux virtual machine or container with Apple frameworks. For quite some time, Apple ships the virtualization framework. It's a hypervisor. It's hardware accelerator. Works on Apple Silicon. It even allows to run the x86 binaries. It's a fast, native, handle cross-platform Linux binaries. API is surprisingly friendly. It's not that bad. There's some setup. You need to provide the Linux kernel, set up storage, some interfaces to that, and start the VM. The VM itself boots really fast. So it's like less than a second. The problem there is what is actually in your storage, how big, how you build the kernel. This boot can take few seconds. But who wants to do that by your own? Well, nobody. That's why the Apple said, I don't know what they said. They published the containerization framework, new framework that's supposed to solve this kind of pain points. And the containerization framework is the new one thing. It works since macOS 15 and works macOS 26 fully. It's open source. It's basically Apple answer to Docker. What's significant is it provides OCE image support. OCE stands for Open Container Initiative. So those are the same images you can use for Docker. So the internal is all over that kind of images. Think about it as a Docker, but native, open source, and Swift first. An API is really easy. Mount host directory, run your binary, and capture the output. Set up the kernel, initializer, networking, and once all of that is set up, you create the container with here it connects to the registry and spin up the virtual machine, and it boots in less than 1 second. The architecture is like you build a Swift code for Linux using the static Linux SDK. You get the Linux ELF binary. You create a Linux container. Under the hood, you spin up the lightweight Linux VM using virtualization framework. The VM runs optimized kernel. That kernel comes with the containerization framework and minimal init system, which also is a part of the containerization framework, which is very important to have this boot so fast. And then it's just runs the binary, and you can connect to that and get the input-output. For the comparison, containerization to Docker, it's containerization is macOS only, and it's free. Docker is cross-platform, but might require payment. There are some payment plans. Containerization uses virtualization framework, while Docker uses QEMU or virtualization framework. The Docker situation is different on a Mac and different on a Linux. On a Mac, it always comes with a virtual machine. On a Linux, not necessary, but do not think about it now. The difference is Docker is one big VM that uses the Linux namespaces to run the multiple containers. And there's a daemon that facilitates all the work. On the containerization, each container gets a separate virtual machine, and there's no daemon. You can use it as a dependency in your application. just like that. There's a command line interface for compatibility with the Docker, but it's not necessary to work with the containerization. So how it works? There are 4 or 3 steps. So first, we need the SDK, and Swift Packet Manager has support for that. Swift SDK install. Then we build with the SwiftPM for the architecture using the SDK, and we have a binary. So let me wrap up this key point. SwiftPM plus static SDK is equals to cross-compile on Mac. Virtualization is a Linux virtual machine. Containerization is an open container initiative without a Docker. All open source, all Swift native. Demo time. For the demo, there is like a hello world kind of code, then runs and spill out some output. For demo, I use the application that I built. It's a Notepad exe. And on the left, you see the Linux code that runs the same code. On the right, there's a macOS version of the same Swift code. And it just runs in simultaneously. Under the hood, it uses everything I just said, which is use SPM to compile, cross-compile, and spin up the virtual machine. And it's like, you don't even see that. If you don't believe me, this is the more advanced code. This is the server that whoever connect, it's responds with hello world. It's vibe coded, so bam, so it's solid. So I run it, and it runs as a Linux machine. And here I connect with the curl and see hello world, and it just works. I'm very happy you can read. Yeah, that was I built that just recently, and I wanna to celebrate that with the 50% off for the Notepad.exe application, which is my application with the discount code SwiftConnect 25. Also, two people who will ask the question will get the 2 boxed versions of the Notepad.exe. Everything you need to play with this is those links, which is the documentation on the GitHub for containerization. There's a blog post about the Swift static linking and Swift static Linux SDK. Virtualization framework is just part of the official documentation. And that is over. Thank you very much.
All right, come join us for a lot of questions. So since me and Vincent are asking you the questions, do we get those?
I mean, do you get this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Serious question. Then I have one here. What does Apple get out of supporting Linux containers? Are they doing anything with them themselves, or are they just trying to support more of the community? Is there some secret info that you know that?
No, I don't know the secret info. I don't also believe that was made for the developers. I think it was made for the Apple internally for the initiative of the Swift on server, and they just open source it because it's good to have the feedback, and it's really like once they ship the virtualization framework, that wasn't obvious, but was like somebody should build tool like that, and this is Apple, so there's like control probably the narrative, but it definitely makes easier for developers to work on server, Swift to make Swift on server.
Makes sense. Vincent, you got some questions? I got some more too. So
yeah, we have some question from the audience. How can you debug, like, if possible, these Linux executables?
There's a debugger on the Linux. So the current story would be you can spin up LLDB on the Linux virtual machine while it's running, and you can connect to the LLDB remotely on a Mac, or yeah, or manually in the containers, you can like SSH to the container and do it like very manually. But yeah, the best way would be to spin up the LLDB in the container and connect to it. I think even Xcode could do that. Like literally every client of the LLDB debugger could do that. There's a protocol and support it.
Thank you. And another question we have is, do you have an example of what kind of project could leverage this Swift on Linux using containers approach?
No, but I know all this. Well, the main difference and the main goal to have it working is the cross-compilation tool. If you want to build something on a Linux, you cannot rely on building the code and running in Xcode because it uses a different foundation, it uses a different version of the compiler, it uses the different runtime, and it will just not going to work once you deploy it to the Linux server. This is why you need this runtime. So if you work with anything that is outside the macOS box, you need this kind of containerization. Though there can be services that are not available normally on the macOS, and now you can bundle that in a single library, probably wrap it in some program that will spin up the virtual machine and just deliver it to the client just like that, and that will be server that is available only on Linux, but now will be available on the Mac transparently.
So you've also answered the question of why don't we just compile once on Mac and on Linux for on Mac for testing and on Linux for deploying?
Yeah, there's a different. There's a lot of differences. So the Linux is not Unix even. So there's a syscalls different. It depends how deep you get. You cannot build the same software on both platforms. There will be differences in the runtime or with the tooling available.
And we've got kind of a fun question. What does the size of the binary of the hello world that you built with the Docker toolchain looks like?
Yeah, I didn't look into that, but there will be probably about 100 megabytes. So the static library has the thing that it has to put all the code into the binary. So of course it grows, but it's really these days it's insignificant and doesn't have an impact on running. So it doesn't have an impact on running because the statically linked binary has every dependency resolved. The computer just run it, while the dynamic library, once you run it, there's like a linking. It reach to the libraries and do some work on before the program start. Here it's not. That's why it can be fast. But I didn't measure that. Maybe 40 megabytes. I don't know. I can do that.
All right. I was told I have to keep everybody here until 6:40. Gotta hold you hostage. Their words, not mine. But do you have any crazy big plans yourself to do anything else with what you've just talked about today? Or were you just diving into here for a little bit of fun?
Yeah. Well, I'm building this Notepad exe, which is the simple playground for the developers. And I have this unshipped project Swift Studio, and if you think about both of that projects, it will eventually merge to one project, one output. There will be kind of IDE that, and my promise and my thinking was to build something that is easy to use for cross-platform development for Swift and Linux or whatever language. And so in that term, yeah, I'm going to use the technology. I already use that. Like I literally build that in a notepad.exe because it's so low-hanging fruit. After all, there's one bug that makes it not working, but they're gonna fix it soon. So yeah, it's so low-hanging fruit to have this new feature, and it's awesome. It's really
This leads into my next question pretty well. But when are you releasing Swift Studio?
Yeah, so Swift Studio was 6 years ago here released on my machine. And since then, I did not release it to the public. I decided to build a new product instead. So I don't have an answer to that question.
And talking about your other project, Notepad.exe, someone is wondering, have you gotten in trouble with Microsoft for using the name Notepad.exe?
Not yet, but I'm really welcome them. Not yet. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if Microsoft is still in the programming these days.
With anything that Apple is releasing here with containerization, is there anything leading up to like using Linux on iPad at all that you know about?
So
Because I really want that.
Yeah, I believe technically it's very much possible. You know, the iPad is very much capable. It can run the probably macOS version of the individual machine. It's just that all of that happens on the level of the software of the iPad OS. And I don't know, probably the stewards of the software would need to change at Apple.
Unrelated question to everything here. What is your favorite karaoke song?
I don't sing karaoke.
That's a lie. What is your favorite karaoke song?
Jesus, I don't know. Now I think that I was drunk or something and I was singing.
We were singing in Tokyo together.
Oh, yeah. I forgot, but there was, yeah.
It was your national anthem. Good job.
Yes, that's true. Jesus.
That's all I got for questions.
We've got one last question, also an easy question like the karaoke song. How easy it is to crack Notepad.exe? Not me asking, someone did ask that.
So there's code gen on the CD that is in here. So it's very easy. You can just open that and run it if you have a CD, which is the challenge.
All right, it's 6:40. I did my job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcin.
Thank you.